So I would like to talk to you about the practice which is related with Lean, which is related with Agile. The practice is called Use Case 2.0. So this is a kind like a short study. What I would like to do, I would like to share with you how we introduced the Use Case 2.0 in our company to help us to derive business requirements, how it supports us to improve the collaboration between business and IT departments. It also helps us to promote the lean mindset within the organization. And last but not least, which is actually the most important, is that it helps us to drive software development. My name is Paweł Pierzchałka, and I work for BNP Paribas Personal Investors in Germany. So let me tell a few words about what is BNP Paribas. So BNP Paribas is a big bank. So we are present in 74 countries. We have 190,000 employees, and from this 190,000 employees, 140,000 in Europe. And the core business for us is retail banking and corporate banking. And there is also BNP Paribas in Germany. The business line in Germany is called Personal Investors. So we are the digital bank. We have two brands. The one brand, which I am originally coming from, it's called Consorsbank. So we serve B2C customer. There is also another brand in Munich, which is called DAB. It's for B2B customer. So we cover all the portfolio of just a normal banking. So brokerage, it's the main area we do. Banking, accounts, investments, and so on and so forth. One important point is that we have in Germany, even if we are a part of the French company, we have the IT departments which are developing all the beautiful apps you can see on the picture. So we do the front-end development, website, we do the apps, and we do it for the customers in Germany, but also for the international customers. You can see some numbers. And now let's go to the main part of the presentation. Maybe I can change it or because it's just breaking all the time. Yeah. Hello. So now it should work. Okay, so starting point. Why we approach the idea and the concept of Use Case 2.0. So if I look back on the last years, we have always a challenge, a problem with requirements management. So we have a process, the process were defined, we have a lot of standards, we have the business requirement specification. But all the time we look back, like 3 or 5 years back, always there was so we have a standard reviews, of course. And when we look back, always in the area of requirements management, there was an issue, there was a problem. So it was always a potential area for improvement. It is also related to the point that the business and IT collaboration were not working very well. So we tried different things. We put all the people related to the project management, related to the business analysis, to the requirements engineering together, trying to create the service department, but still it was not working well. So this is a kind of like a negative motivation why we wanted to find a new approach for requirements management. On the same time, the whole organization changed, or is changing at the moment. So we have now within the BNP Paribas digital transformation. We have now more and more present the experimenting and learning mindset in the organization. And last but not least, also the customer focus. To focus of that what the customer really wants from us is now the central point of that what we focus on. So we just find out that maybe the use case, the old established and well-defined practice of the use case can be maybe a solution for us. So how many of you know already the use case concept? So quite a few people, because use case is very old, so it's already 30 years on the market. And what the use case do for us, The use cases, they place the requirements into the context of a specific user goals. So exactly we are focusing on that, what the user wants from us, what the customer wants for us. And the use cases are also central hub for the software development. So we are using the use cases to derive business requirements. Based on the use cases, we can also identify what are the components, what are the architecture, which will be impacted. They help us in software design. We can derive from the use cases test aspects, so we can do test-driven development. It helps us also to do the business modeling, reuse user experience, and the iteration planning. So what is actually the use case? So this is the official definition of the use case. So the use case describes all the ways of using the system to achieve a particular goal of the particular user. So you see here that the customer focus, the user focus is very strong. Many of you know this representation of the use case from the UML diagrams. So you have an actor and you have the goal of the actor. So the customer is the actor, and what the customer wants to do, he wants to browse and shop. But there is also another way of describing the use cases. It's the way using use case narratives. And the use case narratives, what they do, they tell the stories how the system will be used by the users to achieve the goal of the user, to achieve the goal of the customer. So you can just see this browse and shop can be described like a different stories. The one is the basic flow, which describes what is the simplest flow to achieve the objective of the user. And you can also look at some alternatives. So what are the potential options? What are the potential situations which may happen in case of error or in case of the special handling? The use case approach is very present, and one of the guys, Ivar Jakobsson, in 2011, he just put all the concepts related to use case and to his experiences, and he created a use case 2.0 practice, a use case 2.0 guide, and he defined what are the key characteristics which are successful for the successful application of the use case 2.0. So the key principles, if you look at them, they are very lean and very agile. So the first one is keep it simple by telling stories, understand the big picture, focus on value, focus on customer value, build the system in small slices, deliver the system in increments, and adapt to meet the team needs. So what about to keep it simple by telling stories? Generally speaking, storytelling is something which helps the people to survive the culture and to develop. So storytelling is also the simplest and most efficient way just to pass the knowledge from one person to another person. And exactly the same concept is also implemented by this use case 2.0. So to describe the use cases, we just use the storytelling. So we are saying, what is the simplest story to achieve for this customer his objective, and what are the potential alternative stories? The second principle is understand the big picture. It means when we start to develop a system, we have to start in the end of mind. So we have to start with the vision, what the system is about. Important is to have the overview of the system, because if we know what we want to develop, then we know also which decision we have to take, what will be inside the system, what is the system boundary, and what will be outside the system, so what will be the system context. And for this, we can use just a very simple diagram. It's just a use case diagram or use case model where we just identify what are the customers, the customers, or what are the other systems, and what are the all objectives, all the goals of these customers from this system. The third one is just focus on value. What does it mean to focus on value? Means to focus on that, what will provide the result, the expected result to the user and to the other stakeholders. And the value is generated then when the system is used. So there is no point just to generate the least of the functionality, the least of the features, if they will be never used. And this is exactly what is the key definition of the use case. So the use case defines how the system will be used to achieve a specific goal for a particular user. So, and when we speak about the use cases, then we speak about something which is useful. So we speak about the useful cases, something which brings the value to the customer. There is one concept which is very strongly defined in this use case 2.0 approach, and this is something new. So we have the use case, so we already know it. So use case is just described by the set of stories, and the stories are described in prosa as use case narratives, and they contain this basic and this alternative flows. But we have also the slices, and the slices, it's like a piece of cake. When I have a piece of cake, I just slice this piece of cake with all the layers, and this is what is the most important for the customer, and that's what I want to develop for him. And the slices, they are used just to select one or more stories from the use case, and then just concentrate, then just put it as the container, which will be put then in development and enriched by design, by implementation, and by the test aspects. So the slices are the small containers which flow through the whole system. The fourth principle says that build the system in slices. What does it mean? It means that first identify what is the most crucial point for the customer, for the user. So there is a short recipe here. Then select what is the most important for the customer, define the design test aspect, slices into smaller pieces, and to put it into the development. So there is another representation for example, of the use case. So we have a use case with the different steps and with some alternatives. So then when we are doing the slices, we are selecting, for example, only the basic flow, because the basic flow is what is important for the customer. It does what it brings value, and we don't look at all the alternatives and all the potential error handling. There is the fifth principle. The fifth principle says deliver the system in increments. So we don't build our system as a big bang. Usually the systems evolve through the generations, and we build the system as the releases. So also the concept of delivering the system in slices, the use case 2.0, just supports this way of developing by providing the pieces of information, providing the pieces of business requirements, which can be put into development and provide the real value for the user. And the last principle, last but not least, is to adapt to meet the team expectations, team needs. So there is no silver bullet. So there is no solution, no approach which fits all possibilities, because the world is different, the teams are different, the needs of the teams are the needs of the teams are different. We have different situations, different contexts. So what the use case 2.0 is also providing the different work products, and these work products have different levels of granularity. Like, for example, for this use case narrative, we have something which is we have the four level of detail, from briefly described to fully described. And for example, when I have a small team building a small, well-known product, then I can just go for this bulleted outline, because it's just detailed enough for the team just to focus on them and just to start the work. When I have a large complex system, then the fully described, maybe with some additional information, will be that I have to go for. And the idea here also is that this use case 2.0, it should be a solution which is adaptable, which is as light as desired, but also as detailed as needed. Some words about what we currently do with use case 2.0 in our organization. First of all, we use this approach just to improve our business requirements, exploration activities. So what we are doing when the demand is arising, or when there is a new idea for a new product or a new service, we are just creating requirements exploration teams. The teams are cross-functional, so they have the representation of all the skills needed. So we have a product epic owners, we have stakeholders from the business, we have the business analyst, requirements engineer, solution designer, and tester. And they should work closely together. They work closely together during the whole life cycle of the product. And what about the process? So we decided that we went for a process which is the Kanban-like use case 2.0 process. So it starts here. So the team comes together, there is a business idea. So what they do, they just analyze different inputs. So we work with the customer journeys, with design thinking. We use also the PowerPoint presentations, the documentation we have. And the team, this cross-functional requirements exploration team, is creating this big picture. So they are identifying what are the actors, what are the customers, what are the potential users of the system, and they are defining also what are the objectives of these users. Then there is an important decision which has to be made. So what is, from the business point of view, from the customer point of view, what is the most important thing which has to be done next? So it's, in this case, what the teams are doing, they are defining what will be the next release or what will be the next minimum viable product. And they select one or two use cases. And for these use cases, they are creating these slices. So this small selection of the part of the use case, which is then put here in this input into the backlog as the entry to the backlog, and then the flow starts. Then the teams see, okay, so what we need to detail in order to prepare the information which is good enough that the people from the development teams can approach it. What about the test aspects? If this is done, then it flows to the next step, which is say analysis. So what is the impact on the different components, on the different elements of the system? What we have to do new, and then it goes into the development and into the test. The whole process is just divided into two parts. So we have one part, this one, which is like requirements management. So it's about what are the actors, what are the use cases, how we can slide these use cases into the small slices. And if we, for example, in the analysis, if we just discover that the initial idea we had with the design, it's not implementable, or in between there is something better, then of course this information flow back to this use case model, and the use case model is adapted. And then we have the second part, and the second part is more the backlog management part. So it's about how to manage these work items which are flowing through the system. And we believe it help us to make the development in parallel, because, for example, in this case, in the analysis, solution architect, solution designer can concentrate on the analysis part, on the identification of what is the impact on the current components or the new components or business flows we have to develop. And at the same time, the business guy can concentrate on refining the second use case, for example. So it flows, and it makes the work more parallel. Maybe some words about how we are supporting this by the tools. I believe that the tool support is important. We have already in our organization, we have already all the tools from Atlassian. So we have this Jira and Confluence, and this is well established. So there are several hundred people already intensively using it. So we have different ideas to bring on board the new tool, but then we decided just to stay with the tools we already have. What is important for us, that we have a clear differentiation between the requirements management area and between the backlog management area. And this is maybe what is differentiating this approach from just the classical Scrum approach. Because in this requirements management area, we have the place where we manage our use cases, where we manage that, what describes our product and services. And this is what is permanent. So as long as we will have a service and as long as we will have a product, we will have the use cases which are describing this product and this service. And it means when in a half year or when in 1 year we just have to approach this again, then we can make the reuse of the knowledge we already captured in this use case. And before, It was like tons of documentation, tons of business requirement specification, which was just created in a project. And then after the project was finished, the information were gone. And maybe the guy also who created it was not anymore available. What we put also in Confluence, I don't know how many of you know the Confluence, but it's a kind of a very simple wiki system. We have created also the knowledge and information sharing area where we are providing the templates and the guides and the how-tos. And in the Jira, we have just the Jira we just use for managing the work to be done, for managing this use case slices, for managing the backlog items. The one part which is also very nice about these tools is that the Confluence and Jira speak together. So what we can do, for example, we can link the use case model, the use cases, with the backlog items from the business backlogs, the use case slices, and then we can also link with the user stories and with a special task the development teams work on. And this is good, this is beneficial for the different stakeholders because the business guys, they see what's happening with the functionality I requested, and the developers also can see through the linkage what is the source requirements which just drive me to do these development tasks. I was asking myself a question why the use case 2.0 is well adopted in our organization. And I just stick to the principles from the use case 2.0. So the first one is we kept it simple. It means we didn't provide the new tool on board. We just used that what the people are already using for this Jira backlog management, but also for Confluence. We have very simple templates. And we just tested these templates with the teams. And at the end, we selected the template which is the easiest one, which is just a simple table in a wiki. They didn't want to have a special sophisticated tool. What is also very important is about the process. So there is a need to have a standard way of doing things. And as we are doing it around 1 year, we just decided that we stick to that, what is already described in this use case guide from Jakobson, because it's very nice description. With so it provides the value instead of developing a new solution and new terms in our company. And of course, we do the coaching and tool support just to make the whole approach simple for the guys. It fits also in the big picture because we have this digital transformation at the moment. There is a sense of urgency coming from the group that we need to change. There is also a sense of urgency for us because we see that in Germany, for example, there are like a standard, very boring banks which are pushing more and more into this digital banking area. So our position is not so strong, maybe in a few years. There is also an agile and lean mindset in the organization just related with this digital transformation. And the whole approach, use case 2.0 approach, it focuses on value. Because we see, for example, in IT, that just focusing on that what is important for the customer, or just focusing on that what is important for our business internal customers, we can just make them happy and deliver that what they really want from us. And just doing this development slice by slice, we provide the value faster to the customer. So we don't wait several months just to provide a big bang release. And we also adapt to meet the team needs. So teams, on the one hand, teams are open for the new way of working. On the other hand, we also experimenting and learning with the teams. We are testing the process. We are doing it in the common workshops. Last but not least, maybe also there is also management support, and it helps. So there is a lean startup way of thinking in our organization. So, for example, start experimenting now, learn and improve. It's exactly the statement I heard several weeks ago from our top manager of our pools. It was the lady speaking to all employees, and she was motivating us not to build a big roadmaps, big plans like an old-fashioned style, but really start to experiment and to do things now. And this is that what we also did with this use case 2.0 approach. It was something new. It was something lean, lightweight, agile, and the people were open for it. They wanted just to go for it. There is also a management dialogue around that, what we are doing. The guys from management, they speak, they promote this use case 2.0 concept. It's on the CIO level, but it's also on the level of the directors from the IT and also from the business departments. But what we have to do, we have, of course, to continue to improving. We did some pilots, we did the retrospectives, we learned what works, what doesn't work in terms of working together, in terms of tool and templates. We have to inspect and adapt that what we have achieved until now, and we have to improve and at the same time to provide the coaching and training. And the journey on the use case 2.0 has to be continued. It means that, for example, in Germany, in Consorsbank, in this B2C area, we already deployed it, but there is in Munich, there is this B2B area where we just started last week with the first introductory sessions. What we did until now with this use case 2.0 approach, we just implemented it within the initiatives, projects. But what we want to do also in the organization around our customer journeys, around our service areas, product areas, we want to build the use case models for this particular business, just to help us to make it continuous and permanent. And also we have now opportunity, we are now introducing in our company a new product line, and we want just to put this use case 2.0 as one of the practices which we just test on the whole development, or actually not development, whole product line life cycle. That's all from my side. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for attention.